qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
Dangerous Dan has a best lap time of 1:21.409. Dangerous Dan has a best lap time of 1:21.409.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Simon of the Desert posted 1:37.045 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
Simon is not giving up and will be looking for every 10th.
With just 3 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Simon of the Desert has a best lap time of 1:20.822. Dangerous Dan has a best lap time of 1:21.380. Dangerous Dan posted 1:21.380 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
Dangerous Dan just posted a 1:21.380 crossing start finish. Malero has a best lap time of 1:19.541. With just 1 minute left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations.
There is always more time to be found, but Malero is not guaranteed to find it.
Adam posted 1:19.357 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Adam has a best lap time of 1:19.336. Adam just posted a 1:19.357 crossing start finish.
Adam is not giving up and will be looking for every 10th.
Malero has a best lap time of 1:19.541.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
With just 0 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Adam posted 1:18.980 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Adam just posted a 1:18.980 crossing start finish. Adam has a best lap time of 1:18.980.
There is always more time to be found, but Adam is not guaranteed to find it.
David Zahn has a best lap time of 1:19.098. David Zahn posted 6:40.163 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
Zahn is not giving up and will be looking for every tenth.
Assad Extreming is on his practice out lap. Let's get this qualifying session underway here at Kyalami 1967.
Let's see who's got the speed and the skills to take the pole position.
You can feel the tension building. Malero is out on track and getting ready to push for his qualifying time.
It's a delicate balance between taking it easy and pushing hard. Let's see how Malero handles it.
Malero is working his way through Crowthorne Corner. That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through Clubhouse Bend.
I have always loved this section of the track.
The adrenaline is pumping. David Zahn is on his out lap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if Zahn can deliver.
David Zahn is expertly commanding that car through the S's.
If Dave listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
David Zahn has completed his outlap. This is where the mental game comes into play. Dangerous Dan is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run.
This is the moment he's been preparing for. Let's see if he can execute.
Dangerous Dan is driving through Crowthorne Corner.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Dangerous Dan is keeping his head down through Barbecue Bend.
Fuel, fumes, fans, and fights. Barbecue Bend has it all.
Malero is on his out lap. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Adam is nailing both. Adam crosses the start-finish line at the end of his outlap. Adam has lost 0.17 seconds so far through Crowthorne Corner. This is what it's all about. David Zahn is putting everything he's got into this qualifying session. It's clear that Malero is pushing his car to the very edge of traction on this qualifying lap.
Absolutely. Malero is showing the world what he's made of.
The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but David Zahn is rising to the occasion. David Zahn is currently up 0.62 going through Jexke sweep. David Zahn has improved by 0.7 up through the S's. David Zahn just clocked a 119.007, 0.139 off of P1 and good enough for P2. Let's see if he can improve on that time further. There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session. Dangerous Dan has just completed that lap in 122.793, which is 3.925 off the best time, putting him in P6. Kevin MkII is on his first flying lap.
It's certainly exciting to watch. But let's not forget, the goal is to secure a good starting position for the race.
Kevin MkII is now up 0.39 in the S's.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
Kevin MkII has completed that flying lap in 119.146, which is good enough for P4, down 0.278 to the leader. Dangerous Dan is up 0.98. Dangerous Dan is in the green by 1.02, making his way through the S's.
The rest of this lap is no cakewalk. Let's hope he can keep it up.
Dangerous Dan has some work to do, as his best time of 121.884 is only good enough for 6th.
There's at least 3.12 seconds to be found, but Dangerous Dan may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Kevin MkII has improved by 0.37. Kevin MkII is 0.32 up driving through the S's.
All we can do now is wish Kevin luck as the start-finish line approaches.
Kevin MkII will be happy, with a time good enough for 2nd in this qualifying session. MkII will be happy, with a time good enough for 2nd in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 0.211 gap to pole.
David Zahn is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 118.576.
That's a great time, but it's always a good idea to keeping pushing for every last 10th and 100th.
Dangerous Dan has some work to do, as his best time of 121.430 is only good enough for 6th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 2.854 gap to pole.
Dangerous Dan is now up 0.4. Ryan Wilson will be looking to use this first hot lap to set a solid time in the standings. MkII has improved by 0.14. MkII is driving through the S's and is up 0.11.
There's no guarantee that MkII can maintain this delta through the rest of the lap.
It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Ryan Wilson is nailing both.
Ryan certainly is nailing this one. This is shaping up to be a great performance.
Ryan Wilson is currently up 7.8 going through Liucop Bend. Dangerous Dan has some work to do, as his best time of 121.294 is only good enough for 6th.
There's at least 2.718 seconds to be found, but Dangerous Dan may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.659, but that won't stop him from trying.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Kevin Lekmanski is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:18.296.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Kevin Lekmanski appears focused and prepared driving through Clubhouse Bend. Dangerous Dan is now up 0.43. Dangerous Dan is working his way through Liukop Bend.
When I get some free time after the race, I'm going to park my pudding near Liukop Bend with a nice drink and some friends.
Dangerous Dan has some work to do, as his best time of 1:21.098 is only good enough for 8th. Stefano Amadei is looking relatively composed going through Liukop Bend. Stefano Amadei has some work to do, as his best time of 1:20.537 is only good enough for 7th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 2.241 gap to pole.
Adam has improved by 0.16. Adam will be happy, with a time good enough for 2nd in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 0.213 gap to pole.
Dangerous Dan is up 0.12. Dangerous Dan has improved by 0.3 up through Liukop Bend. Dangerous Dan has some work to do, as his best time of 1:20.867 is only good enough for 8th. Dangerous Dan is driving through Crowthorne Corner.
The ASRL T70 MkII Spyder is indeed a sweet-ass looking ride.
David Zahn has found an extra 0.15. David Zahn will be happy, with a time good enough for 3rd in this qualifying session. It looks like Jake Feemster is getting ready to make his move. He's taking his time to warm up those tires and get everything just right.
He'll want to get a good gap established for the flying lap.
That's the outlap done for Jake Feemster. He'll now look to focus on his first flying lap. Jake Feemster is expertly commanding that car through Crowthorne Corner. Ryan Wilson looks to be off the leader by 1.395. Ada, what can he do to improve?
He'll need to put together a perfect lap, hitting every apex and pushing the car to the limit without going over it.
Ryan Wilson is not able to keep his pace consistent, so far 0.32 seconds down through Clubhouse Bend. Ryan Wilson is down by 0.88 going through Liukop Bend.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Impressive display by Simon of the Desert, currently sitting in P5. He's set a competitive time, but the question remains whether he can push even harder to secure a better starting position. Simon of the Desert is in the green by 0.44, making his way through the S's. Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.37, but that won't stop him from trying.
Jake Feemster has secured a respectable eighth in the qualifying session. This is a great spot to use as a launch pad for a strong race performance. Jake Feemster is now up 1.01 in the S's.
Jake needs all the focus and resolve he can muster to maintain this pace.
Jake Feemster just clocked a 1:19.789, 1.493 off of P1 and good enough for P7. Let's see if he can improve on that time further. Jake Feemster is driving through Crowathorn Corner and is up 0.14.
If Feemster gets greedy, this delta could go from green to red in the blink of an eye.
Jake Feemster is currently up 0.19 going through Sunset Bend. Jake Feemster has improved by 0.16 up through Liukop Bend. Jake Feemster has some work to do, as his best time of 1:19.349 is only good enough for sixth. It's a very still day here at Kyalami 1967, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The calm before the storm. I don't know about you, Hal, but I'm expecting some hard-fought battles on track today.
Starting from pole position is a great opportunity for Kevin Lekmansky to take control of the race.
He can't afford to get complacent. He will have a target on his back now.
Adam has a great opportunity starting on the front row.
He can't let that advantage go to waste. He will need to stay focused and keep his eyes on the prize.
David Zahn will begin the race from the third spot on the starting grid.
I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Zahn can do from here.
Securing the fourth place is Simon of the Desert.
Simon will be ready to show what he's made of.
On the fifth grid slot we have Malero.
Big things expected for Malero today.
We're seeing Jake Feemster in the sixth spot.
The American driver will be focused on a good result from here.
Ryan Wilson is placed in seventh. Sitting in eighth is Stefano Amode. Lining up in ninth is Dangerous Dan. As the engines roar to life, Nils Shepard prepares to take off from the 10th position on the starting grid. The flag drops, and the race is underway. Drivers now face the challenge of avoiding first-lap calamities.
This is where the real action begins. The drivers will be jostling for position and trying to gain any advantage they can.
Absolutely. It's a crucial part of the race, and the drivers will need to be on top of it to make it through here unscathed.
The first sector is always a bit of a nail-biter. With so many cars bunched together, one small mistake can be disastrous.
They'll need to keep their wits about them and stay focused if they want to come out of this section unscathed. David Zahn will be studying the nearby drivers and looking for anything that could give them an advantage. All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up.
The race isn't won in the first turn, but there have been plenty that have ended there. How?
As the tires come up to temp, their available grip is changing, and the drivers that manage this transition best are likely to make progress through the field.
I'd love to be on track burning some rubber here. How?
As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race. Settling into a rhythm is going to be crucial here.
What a beautiful day for racing here at Kyalami 1967. This is going to be good to watch.
Oh, this is getting intense. Adam is just behind Kevin Lekmansky.
As an experienced driver, I can tell you that Adam must be laser focused on Lekmansky's every move, looking for the slightest weakness to exploit.
Simon of the Desert is giving it his all, chasing down Malero in P4. It's a solid performance from Simon of the Desert at the moment. He's holding his position and not getting too caught up in battles around him.
Consistency is key in racing. Simon just needs to keep doing what he's doing and wait for opportunities to present themselves.
Jake Feemster is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Things are heating up as Adam tries to close the gap to Kevin Lekmansky. Look at that, Malero is hot on the tail of David Zahn.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Malero needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
No room for error here. Adam is breathing down the neck of Kevin Lekmansky, waiting for the perfect chance to make his move.
You can feel the intensity in the air. The slightest mistake could cost either of them valuable time, and the position.
Rising to the occasion and claiming victory would help to cement Malero's legendary status. Braking development. A great moment for Malero, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Impressive. Malero is really showing his skill and determination out there.
The gap between Adam and Kevin Lekmansky is razor thin as they vie for first in this nail-biting contest.
If Adam pushes too hard, he might end up taking the scenic route, and nobody's got time for sightseeing during a race.
Malero wants to find a way round Adam.
If Malero gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
David Zahn is on a mission, chasing Malero, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Looks like Simon of the Desert is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Simon should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Zahn.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. This is where the race gets really interesting. Ryan Wilson is closing in on Jake Feemster. Stop the press. A brilliant maneuver from Ryan Wilson, who has just moved up the field.
Yes, Wilson is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
Nils Shepard is running ninth, and trying to catch Stefano Amadei. Stop the press. It's looking good for Nils Shepard, who has gained a place after passing Stefano Amadei.
Yes, but Nils needs to keep pushing hard. This race is far from over, and anything can happen. Nils needs to stay focused and drive with skill and determination. It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Shepard needs to stay patient and wait for Stefano to make a mistake. The
battle for P4 is heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to catch David Zahn in P4.
The racing is getting tight between Simon and Zahn as they battle for P4. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
The action is non-stop as Ryan Wilson shadows Jake Feimster through every twist and turn, determined to claim 6th.
It's a battle of nerves now. Wilson and Feimster are both pushing hard, but need to avoid mistakes that might cost them time or positions.
These drivers are battling hard for this position, each one trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other.
You know what they say, keep your friends close, and your racing rivals even closer. Looks like Adam is taking that advice to heart today.
Every move counts now as David Zahn works to reel in Malero and overtake for P3.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
This is a thrilling battle as Dangerous Dan edges closer to Stefano Amadei in their fight for P9.
Dangerous Dan is looking to close the 0.3 second gap and make a pass.
Kevin Lekmansky is giving it his all chasing down Adam in P1.
This is where every inch counts. Lekmansky is pushing hard to close the gap on Adam. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Oh, this is getting intense. David Zahn is just a few car lengths behind Malero.
We'll have to wait to see if Zahn can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
The pressure is on as Jake Feimster tries to catch up to Ryan Wilson. Things are heating up as David Zahn tries to close the gap to Malero.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Dave needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Ryan Wilson is looking for an opportunity to get around Jake Feimster.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble at the boundary of disaster.
This is going to be a nail-biter. Malero is defending for his life, but David Zahn is right there doing everything he can to force a mistake.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Zahn to make up that gap, especially with Malero defending so well.
The race is really heating up. David Zahn is hunting down Malero with everything he's got. It's not looking good for David Zahn, who is still behind Malero and the gap is increasing. Hey, Ada, you've had your fair share of races with Lil action. How did you handle the situation back in your racing days?
Well, how? Patience is key in such scenarios. You need to stay focused and be ready to seize any opportunity that comes your way. It's like a game of chess at 200 miles per hour.
Looks like Ryan Wilson is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. Ryan needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Feimster.
We're starting to see who really has the pace now in this race as Kevin Lekmansky is starting to climb all over the back of Malero. Any closer and he may need to pop the boot. Braking alert. And Malero has just lost the place to Kevin Lekmansky.
Kevin is in there like a rat up a drainpipe, pal. Malero is not going to be happy about that.
Things are going according to plan for Stefano Amadei, who is currently 8th. Breaking news, folks. Oh dear, Nils Shepard has had an incident. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Malero is in the flow, putting in his best lap so far. Jake Feimster is on a mission, chasing Ryan Wilson, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. It seems like Jake Feimster is struggling and not able to maintain his pace. This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars. And the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
That's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics. And like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused and alert for the entire race is wild.
I think I need a nap just watching them. The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this. Hold up, breaking info. Big gains for Malero as they move up the field, leaving Kevin Lekmansky behind.
Absolutely, how, but there's still a long way to go in this race, and Malero can't afford to get complacent. One wrong move and we could see a spectacular new synchronized pirouette performance by Malero and MkII, though I doubt the judges would give them a perfect score.
Hold on a second. An impressive showing from Kevin MkII, who has gained positions and left Malero in the dust.
Definitely, but there's still a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen. MkII needs to keep driving with focus and intensity.
It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
Can Kevin close up enough for a pass? I don't see it personally.
A solid performance from David Zahn, who is holding down 7th.
Yes, but Zahn has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Jake Feemster is running 4th and trying to catch Ryan Wilson.
With just 0.5 seconds between them, Feemster will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
Jake Feemster needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. Ada, he's just put in a slower lap than Ryan Wilson.
It will be interesting to see if Ryan can keep outpacing Feemster.
Ada, how do racing drivers like yourself train to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of a driver's preparation. How? Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their focus and mental endurance for a race.
The race is heating up as Simon of the Desert in 5th closes in on Jake Feemster. It's not going to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is trailing behind Jake Feemster and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
Simon needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to Feemster.
During your racing career, Ada, did you have any specific techniques to regain concentration if you felt it slipping?
Yes, Hal, I had a few techniques. One was to take a couple of deep breaths and briefly reset my focus. Another was to use a specific keyword or phrase as a mental trigger to refocus my mind on the task at hand.
Things don't seem to be going Malero's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Malero certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Simon.
It looks like Malero is making a move. The gap to Simon of the Desert is now down to 0.9 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
During your racing career, Ada, how did you determine when it was the right time to pit for fresh tires due to tire degradation?
It was a combination of factors: Hal, monitoring lap times, communicating with the team about tire wear, and assessing the car's handling were all crucial in deciding when to make a pit stop for fresh tires.
The battle for P5 is heating up as Malero tries to catch Simon of the Desert in P5. It's certainly not going to plan for Malero right now, who is struggling to keep up with Simon of the Desert.
This is a frustrating situation for Malero, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Simon.
The tension is building as Dangerous Dan trails behind Stefano Amadei. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Dangerous Dan is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Stefano Amadei at the moment. Malero is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Malero appears to be losing ground on Simon of the Desert. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Sunset Bend to get a good exit and gain some ground.
It's not over yet, but Malero needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Simon.
The drivers are really pushing their limits out there on the track.
It's like they're trying to outrun the laws of physics, but we all know that's impossible, or is it? I mean, we're a couple of computerized robots commenting on a race. Anything can happen.
Bad jokes notwithstanding, you have a point there. And speaking of pushing limits, these cars are breaking records left and right.
They're so fast, it's like they're breaking the sound barrier, or at least the speed limit.
I hope the police aren't watching. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Malero as there is a big gap ahead.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
The gap between Kevin Lekmansky and Ryan Wilson is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Kevin to even allow Ryan to get a look in.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Wilson is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Kevin Lekmansky is widening. It's now up to 1.8 seconds. Malero has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Simon of the Desert. I expect his only hope at this point is that Simon makes an error.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
Good news for Malero, the gap to Simon of the Desert has decreased. It's now down to 0.5 seconds.
That's a great effort from Malero. He'll need to keep up the pressure and see if he can make a move.
David Zahn is trying to catch up to Malero. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. It looks like we might get a battle between David Zahn and Malero.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
Every move counts now as Malero works to reel in Simon of the Desert and overtake for P5.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
It looks like Simon of the Desert is pulling away from Malero. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Clubhouse Bend.
Malero needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
Things don't seem to be going Ryan Wilson's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
This is what it's all about, folks. Malero is in hot pursuit of Simon of the Desert, who's just trying to stay ahead. Hold on a second. Fantastic move from Malero, who has just gained a position.
If this battle ends in tears, it could be like watching a high-speed domino effect. Let's hope they keep it clean and avoid any unplanned off-track excursions.
The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
That's right. These drivers are really pushing themselves to the limit, and it's incredible to see the level of focus and determination they're bringing to the track.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to compete at this level, and these drivers have it in spades. Let's hope they can keep it up and give us a race to remember.
Ryan Wilson is looking for a way to close that gap to Kevin Lekmansky.
Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Simon of the Desert is closing in on Malero.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Simon is really walking that fine line.
It's not going to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is trailing behind Malero and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. Well, it doesn't look like Ryan Wilson is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Kevin Lekmansky.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Wilson is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
It's game on now. Ryan Wilson has closed the gap to Kevin Lekmansky. It's now down to 1.0 seconds. Simon of the Desert is staying focused while chasing Malero in P5. The gap between Simon of the Desert and Malero is growing. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Ryan Wilson as there is a big gap ahead.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
Ryan Wilson could be on a charge here, Ada. He's just put in a quicker lap than Kevin Lekmansky.
The question now is, can Lekmansky respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure.
The pressure is on as Simon of the Desert works on catching up to Malero.
It's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
It's certainly not going to plan for Simon of the Desert right now, who is struggling to keep up with Malero.
Simon really needs to push in Clubhouse Bend to gain some ground before Malero drives off into the sunset.
Ryan Wilson is running third, and trying to keep up with Kevin Lekmansky. Ryan Wilson is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Kevin Lekmansky at the moment. You know, Ada, it's been a relatively quiet race so far.
That's right, Hal. The drivers seem to be pacing themselves and waiting for the right moment to make their move. It's like watching a slow dance.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Simon of the Desert trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Malero. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. The gap between Simon of the Desert and Malero is widening. It's now up to 1.3 seconds. Looks like that's a mistake from Dangerous Dan. This could be costly. The gap between Kevin Lekmansky and Ryan Wilson is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Kevin to even allow Ryan to get a look in.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Ryan Wilson appears to be losing ground on Kevin Lekmansky. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into the kink to get a good exit and gain some ground. What do you think, Ada? Are there any specific factors that could lead to a driver losing concentration during a race?
There are several factors, Hal. Fatigue, stress, changing track conditions, or even issues within the team can all contribute to a lapse in concentration. It's essential for drivers to stay mentally resilient and adapt to these challenges.
It's all about consistency for Kevin Lekmansky, who is currently second.
Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
It looks like Ryan Wilson is starting to catch up to Kevin Lekmansky. The gap is now down to 1.0 seconds.
Can Kevin keep Ryan behind? Let's see.
Simon of the Desert is pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap to Malero. There's 23 minutes left in this session to make that happen. It looks like Adam has found another gear in the last sector of the race.
He'll be the one celebrating at the finish line.
And there it is. Adam has completed the race in first place, setting a blistering pace that none of the other drivers could match.
What a result for Adam. He'll be absolutely thrilled with that performance, and rightly so. He really put in the work and it's paid off in spades.
Kevin Lekmansky never gave up. He drove with heart and determination, ultimately securing a well-deserved second-place finish.
Impressive result. He can be proud of that performance, which landed him on the second podium spot.
What a race from Ryan Wilson, showing his skill and determination for a great third-place finish.
Impressive driving to secure that spot.
Fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh is Jake Feemster, Malero, Simon of the Desert, and David Zahn. Stefano Amadei claim eighth. It's a beautifully calm day here at Kyalami 1967, as we're getting ready to kick things off. Stefano Amadei will lead the way from pole position.
He can't let his guard down. The other drivers will be gunning for him.
David Zahn will be looking to convert this front row start into a win.
He can't count his chickens before they've hatched. There is a long way to go.
Simon of the Desert is lining up third.
Simon will be expecting to bring home solid points.
Starting from the fourth position on the grid, we have Malero.
Putting that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder into prime position for the race.
Jake Feemster lines up in fifth place as the engines rev and the race begins.
Starting from here, Feemster may already have expectations of a podium finish.
The sixth position belongs to Ryan Wilson.
A strong grid position, and he'll be expecting a solid result today.
The seventh starting position belongs to Kevin Lekmansky, who will be looking to make up ground early on.
The proof will most definitely be in the pudding for this American driver.
On the eighth grid slot we have Adam. Dangerous Dan is ninth.
Dangerous Dan does not always keep it clean, but when they do, they excel at gaining positions.
Nils Shepard is lining up 10th. The green flag is out and we're racing. Time for the drivers to put their foot down.
Maintaining a safe distance while still pushing for position is a delicate balance. Experience and composure will be vital in these opening moments.
This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it.
There are a few drivers with a point to prove, and a few with some grudges to bear. Let's hope they can keep it clean.
There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is feeling out the drivers around them.
Every corner, every lap, and every race is a chance for these drivers to hone their abilities and improve their skills.
You'd think Simon of the Desert was driving a snail instead of a race car, dropping positions at the start like that.
Well, Hal, they say comedy is all about timing, and Simon's start might be the punchline that's the worst kind of funny.
Races are often more about maintaining consistency than having outright pace, but it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck every now and then.
With this motley bunch of drivers there is bound to be drama. I just hope we don't miss it.
Talk about a rough beginning. Simon of the Desert has been caught off guard, dropping positions at the start.
Well, Hal, it looks like Simon is starting the race on the back foot. Let's see if he can get some of those spots back.
Wow, Nils Shepard is really pushing hard to catch up to Dangerous Dan.
When I was racing, we had a saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. Nils is definitely living on the edge today.
Talk about pressure. Nils Shepard is caught in the middle, feeling the heat from both and Dangerous Dan. It seems like Dangerous Dan is getting in range of Nils Shepard.
And if you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
Stefano Amadei seems to be putting the pressure on Jake Feemster.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
Ryan Wilson has a battle on his hands now, coming through Sunset Bend with Adam hot on his tail.
If Adam gets any closer to the back of Wilson, then one of them is gonna need some lube if they want to take this further.
Braking alert. Now, this is a challenging position for Ryan Wilson. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, with Adam closing in 0.2 seconds behind and Stefano just ahead with a gap of 0.2 seconds.
I'm on the same page, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind provide valuable context to understand the challenges faced by Wilson. It's a constant juggling act, and he'll need to seize the right moment to gain an advantage.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors. Breaking news, folks. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Oops, Dangerous Dan is going to be wishing that hadn't happened. Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
This is what high-octane racing looks like. David Zahn is breathing down the neck of Jake Feemster, not giving him any room to relax.
A misjudgment by either driver could result in a close encounter of the tire barrier kind, and that's one handshake they'll want to avoid.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Ryan Wilson is chasing Kevin Lekmanski in P5.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds.
This is a thrilling battle as David Zahn edges closer to Jake Feemster in their fight for P2. It's not looking good for David Zahn, who is still behind Jake Feemster, and the gap is increasing. Oh, this is getting intense. Ryan Wilson is just a few car lengths behind Kevin Lekmanski.
The mental game is just as important here. Wilson must keep his cool while putting pressure on Kevin.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Kevin Lekmanski is growing. It's now up to 0.8 seconds. Things are heating up as Jake Feemster tries to close the gap to Malero. Jake Feemster has got his head down now, working those exits and apexes and setting his best lap time so far with a 1 minute. As we enjoy seeing these titans of the track battle it out, let's not forget about the pit crews. Those guys and girls are like a well-oiled machine themselves.
Absolutely, they're the unsung heroes of the racing world. But you know what they say, behind every great driver is an even greater pit crew.
The gap between David Zahn and Adam may be wide, but that doesn't mean David Zahn is safe. He's got to maintain concentration and avoid any lapses in performance. Impressive driving from David Zahn, who has managed to extend his lead over Adam. It looks like Adam will have to regroup and try to make up that lost ground.
Agreed, Hal. Superb driving there. If they keep this up, this race should be a real thrill ride.
Hold on a moment. I don't think that's the fastest way around Kyalami 1967.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 2 kph out there right now.
Look at that. Ryan Wilson is hot on the tail of Kevin Lekmanski. It seems like Ryan Wilson is on fire. He's just put in his best lap. The race is really heating up. Adam is hunting down David Zahn with everything he's got.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Adam should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Zahn.
Braking alert. Oh dear, Nils Shepard has had an incident. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Ryan Wilson is giving it his all, chasing down Kevin Lekmanski in P4. Ryan Wilson is on a charge. His split time shows he's upped his pace.
Wilson appears to be pushing. Hopefully he can keep it together.
Stefano Amadei is running 8th, and trying to catch Malero.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Stefano close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Adam is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Adam is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to David Zahn to 0.3 seconds. Looks like Ryan Wilson is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
It's a game of inches now as Adam tails David Zahn closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake.
This is what separates the good from the great, the ability to stay focused and perform under pressure.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Ryan Wilson is closing in on Kevin Lekmanski. It seems like Ryan Wilson is pushing hard, currently on track to record his best lap so far this race.
Wilson appears to be pushing, hopefully he can keep it together.
The intensity is off the charts as David Zahn hounds Adam, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Oh my, Ryan Wilson is hot on the tail of Kevin Lekmanski as they drive through Barbecue Bend.
With the way Ryan is stalking Kevin, you'd think he's trying to figure out what he had for breakfast this morning.
The pressure is on as David Zahn tries to catch up to Adam.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Zahn needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
The pursuit is on. Ryan Wilson is closing the gap on Kevin Lekmanski, determined to claim P4.
Wilson is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder like a boss.
The action is heating up here as Kevin Lekmanski is in 4th, defending from Ryan Wilson, who is only 0.3 seconds away. Kevin Lekmanski is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 0.56 seconds down.
I heard a rumor that Lekmanski is feeling under the weather, likely from too much partying and staying up late.
Stop the press. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Ryan Wilson gaining places and Kevin Lekmanski losing them.
Absolutely. Wilson is showing great pace and determination, but he can't get too confident. There are still plenty of challenges ahead.
We got a close battle as Ryan Wilson closes in on Kevin Lekmanski.
These two are putting on a masterclass in precision driving. Every turn, every acceleration, calculated to perfection.
The battle for P4 is heating up as Kevin Lekmanski tries to catch Ryan Wilson in P4.
The gap is 0.3 seconds now. Lekmanski is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Wilson.
It's not going to plan for Kevin Lekmanski, who is trailing behind Ryan Wilson and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. A strong showing from Malero, who is currently 7th. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Kevin Lekmanski is chasing Ryan Wilson in P4.
Lekmanski is looking to close the 0.5 second gap and make a pass.
Kevin Lekmanski is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Ryan Wilson at the moment. If everything goes as planned, this is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
Ryan Wilson is placed 4th at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Kevin Lekmanski, who is 0.5 seconds behind.
Absolutely right, Hal, and Lekmanski knows he's got to keep driving at his best and take advantage of any opportunity that comes his way.
He's pulling away. Ryan Wilson is increasing the gap to Kevin Lekmanski.
It's clear that Ryan is dominating right now. He's making it very difficult for Lekmanski to catch up.
Oh, this is getting intense. Kevin Lekmanski needs to keep Ryan Wilson in his sights.
This is where every inch counts. Lekmanski is pushing hard to close the gap on Wilson.
Oh, this is getting intense. Ryan Wilson is just a few car lengths behind David Zahn.
We'll have to wait to see if Ryan can use the draft to his advantage. or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
It looks like Ryan Wilson is making a move. The gap to David Zahn is now down to 0.4 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
Kevin Lekmansky is on a mission, chasing Ryan Wilson, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
It's a game of strategy now as Lekmansky hunts down Ryan. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
It's an intense battle for position as David Zahn tries to outmaneuver Ryan Wilson. This is edge-of-your-seat racing. It's certainly not going to plan for David Zahn right now, who is struggling to keep up with Ryan Wilson.
This is a tough situation for Dave. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Lekmansky needs to stay patient and wait for Dave to make a mistake.
David Zahn is holding fourth, but Kevin Lekmansky is right on his tail. Hold on to your hats, folks. Kevin Lekmansky is right on the heels of David Zahn, and we're in for a wild ride.
They say rubbing is racing, but if Lekmansky gets too close, they might end up trading carbon fiber souvenirs instead of positions.
Breaking development, and Kevin Lekmansky has just won the place from David Zahn.
Yes, but Kevin can't rest on his laurels, but needs to keep pushing to consolidate his position.
The adrenaline is pumping as Adam gets within striking distance of Jake Feemster in their race for first. It looks like Jake Feemster is pulling away from Adam. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Clubhouse Bend. Every move counts now as Kevin Lekmansky works to reel in Ryan Wilson and overtake for P3.
This is where every inch counts. Lekmansky is pushing hard to close the gap on Wilson. Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce.
The slightest mistake from either driver could lead to a meeting with the barriers, and nobody wants an impromptu autograph session with the wall.
A great pass for Jake Feemster, swapping places with Adam to move up the field.
Go, 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 that's what we want to see.
It looks like Adam is all over Jake Feemster going through Crowthorne Corner, increasing the pressure and hoping for a mistake.
It looks like Adam has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
Look at that, David Zahn is hot on the tail of Kevin Lekmansky.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
It's a thrilling pursuit as Adam is right behind Jake Feemster, keeping the pressure on for first place.
Should things go south between Adam and Feemster, we might witness a high-speed game of bumper cars, but trust me, it's way less fun with real race cars.
It seems like Adam is struggling and not able to maintain his pace. Great driving from Adam, who has just gained a place and moved up to first.
You can't argue with results like that. Adam is really making his mark on this race.
David Zahn is on a mission, chasing Kevin Lekmansky, who's currently got a comfortable lead. It's a close race between Jake Feemster and Adam in first. Hold up, breaking info. Looks like that's a mistake from Stefano Amadei. This could be costly.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result. And it's not just about skill and talent. It's about who has the nerves of steel to handle the pressure and make the right decisions at the right time.
Things are heating up as David Zahn tries to close the gap to Kevin Lekmansky.
Dave is really hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder. He's riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
Things are heating up as Adam closes in on Jake Feemster. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
That's right, Hal. The pressure can easily get the best of even seasoned drivers. The fans are on the edge of their seats, waiting to see who will come out on top in this epic showdown.
Adam appears to be losing ground on Jake Feemster. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into the S's to get a good exit and gain some ground.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure. but that's not always a real possibility.
This is a thrilling battle as Ryan Wilson edges closer to Adam in their fight for P2.
Wilson needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Adam.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Adam is getting smaller. Hold the phone. It's looking good for Ryan Wilson, who has gained a place after passing Adam.
Absolutely, Hal, but there's still a long way to go in this race, and Wilson can't afford to get complacent.
A setback for Ryan Wilson, who has just been passed. The pursuit is on. Kevin MkII is working on that gap to Adam, determined to claim P3. Rising to the occasion and claiming victory would help to cement Adam's legendary status.
This battle between Adam and Wilson is so intense, you could cut the tension with a knife, or should I say, with a front wing.
Kevin MkII is running fourth and trying to catch Adam. It looks like we might get a battle between Kevin MkII and Adam. The crowd is on its feet as Adam chases down Ryan Wilson through the S's.
If Adam gets any closer to Wilson, he'll need to send out wedding invitations.
Kevin MkII is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
The gap between Adam and Ryan Wilson is razor thin as they vie for second in this nail-biting contest. Hold on a second. Big gains for Adam as they move up the field, leaving Ryan Wilson behind.
I remember being in a similar situation during my racing days. Adam must stay focused and wait for the perfect opportunity to overtake.
Coming into Crowthorne Corner, the fight for second is heating up. Neither driver wants to be the first to blink. The race is really heating up. Kevin MkII is hunting down Ryan Wilson with everything he's got. Kevin MkII is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 0.32 seconds down. Ryan Wilson is giving it his all, chasing down Adam in P2.
The racing is getting tight between Wilson and Adam as they battle for P2. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Kevin MkII is closing in on Ryan Wilson.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. MkII needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Looking at the lap times, Ryan Wilson is not currently on pace with Adam. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time. The gap between Adam and Ryan Wilson is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Adam to bring Ryan Wilson into play.
That's right, and Wilson knows to keep pushing hard and driving his own race. He can't let Adam off the hook.
Looks like Ryan Wilson is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Wilson should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Adam.
The pressure is on as Adam tries to catch up to Jake Feemster. Ryan Wilson is on a mission, chasing Adam, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
It looks like Adam is in control. He's ahead of Ryan Wilson by over a second, and it doesn't look like he's going to be challenged anytime soon. He can't hold on. Adam is losing time to Ryan Wilson. These drivers are battling hard for this position, each one trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other. Ryan Wilson has just put in a faster lap than Adam, so that's going to give him something to worry about.
We will have to see if Adam has got any answers for that.
Looks like we might have a great battle starting here between Adam in second and Ryan Wilson. It's been tense with a gap of only 0.4 seconds. A commanding performance from Adam, who has increased his lead over Ryan Wilson, putting him firmly in his rear-view mirrors. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Ryan Wilson is chasing Adam in P2.
The gap between them is now just over 0.5 seconds.
This is getting exciting. Ryan Wilson is looking for any gap that might open up the position. It seems like Adam is struggling and not able to maintain his pace. The battle for P2 is heating up as Ryan Wilson tries to catch Adam in P2. It's game on now. Ryan Wilson has closed the gap to Adam. It's now down to 0.2 seconds. You know, Ada, as a former racing driver yourself, can you give us some insights into what goes through a driver's mind during these quieter moments in a race? Breaking news, folks. An impressive showing from Ryan Wilson, who has gained positions and left Adam in the dust.
Sure, Hal, during these moments, drivers often take the opportunity to assess their race strategy, monitor their car's performance, and plan their next move. It's all about staying focused and finding the right time to strike.
Ryan Wilson is looking for a way to close that gap to Jake Feemster. The delta between Adam in 5th and David Zahn remains over a second, but Adam is not letting up. Stop the press. That won't be ideal for Adam.
This is where experience comes into play. Dave has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Adam is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
This one's going to be tough. Ryan Wilson is getting his elbows out, and there may not be enough time left for Kevin MkII to make a move. It's like Jake Feemster has saved all his energy for this final stretch.
That's an impressive burst of speed. It's all but said and done now.
And that, folks, is how it's done. A solid performance and great win from Jake Feemster. What a drive from Ryan Wilson, securing a great second-place finish.
Strong work securing second place. Well done.
Well done to Kevin MkII for securing third place on the podium. Followed by David Zahn, Simon of the Desert, and Malero in 4th, 5th, and 6th. Dangerous Dan End in 9th. Taking 7th is Adam. Stefano Amadei take 8th.